Hello and welcome to another video. I'm Northern Soul Reaper and today I want to talk about Fullmetal Alchemist by Hiromu Arakawa. So let's get right into the video. So rather than giving a full in-depth review of this series, because I'm still reading it currently, I thought that I'll give my first impressions of Fullmetal Alchemist. And I'm reading the absolutely gorgeous Fullmetal editions of this series. Each one collects about 1.5 volumes of the series, and I've read volumes 1 to 4 and I'm about halfway through volume 5. Before we really dive into the manga, it's worth mentioning the anime. This has been adapted into an anime twice. The original Fullmetal Alchemist kind of diverged quite heavily from the source material, but then it was adapted into Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, which, from what I've read so far and what I understand from reading online, this series sticks a lot more closely to the manga. So if you aren't a fan of the Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood anime for whatever reason, if you didn't enjoy it, I can't really say that you're going to find much different here. So it's just worth mentioning that before we get started. Fullmetal Alchemist takes place in Amestris, a country that feels like it was heavily inspired by the European aesthetic. In this world, the most important application of science is alchemy. Alchemists are able to shape the world around them, deconstructing and reconstructing things to their will based on the law of equivalent exchange. Or, in order to create something of equal value must be lost or given in return. Now, alchemists often work for the military as researchers or officers, and as a result these state alchemists have become known as dogs of the military. At the centre of this story are the Elric brothers, Edward and Alphonse, two young alchemists who were orphaned at a young age when their father left and their mother died of an illness. Edward has gone on to become the youngest state alchemist in history after performing exceedingly well in the alchemy exam, and he became known as the Fullmetal Alchemist. That's his code name within the military. Edward is missing one of his arms and one of his legs, and they've been replaced with automail, which is kind of like a mechanical prosthetic, and we do not know the reason for this at the start of the story. Similarly, his brother Alphonse is a soul trapped within a suit of armour without a physical body, and again we do not know the reason for this at the start of the story. So the first volume presents an interesting hook. Why are these young boys turned alchemists travelling around the country and working for the military? Their end goal appears to be to restore their original bodies, whatever that means, and they seem fixated on an object known as the Philosopher's Stone. We're also introduced to some of the antagonists of this story in the first couple of volumes, actors in a grand scheme who may be pulling the strings or working for those that are pulling the strings behind the scenes. Now, I don't want to go into too much detail and spoil too much about these first few volumes because they really are excellent and need to be read for themselves, but I will talk about my experience reading it and what I liked and didn't like about the story in broad strokes. Going into this, I had watched the Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood anime before I started reading the manga, so I very much knew what was going to happen. However, I don't think this hindered my enjoyment at all. The first volume does such a good job of setting up the world and its characters that it was so easy to slip into and forget that I knew what the plot beats were and just enjoy the story for what it was. Fullmetal Alchemist can be very exposition heavy at times. After all, there's a whole world and set of rules that need to be established. Now, this isn't anything new for a manga. There are lots of manga with otherworldly premises or plots that need to be set up. But what I feel like Fullmetal Alchemist does very well is giving you just the information you need at that moment in time, and also delivering it in a way that's entertaining so that it doesn't just feel like an exposition dump. Volumes 1 and 2 specifically go into a lot of detail about the story and the world and the characters, but it never felt forced. I really enjoyed the way that the manga presented its story. The characters in this series are great and easy to love. The Elric brothers in particular have so much chemistry with each other, their allies within the military and their adoptive family. I also have to give a special shout out to Colonel Hughes, who is just the most wholesome character. What I really love about the characters in this series is that even the antagonists have a real depth to them. There's not one character in this entire manga who appears and is just one-dimensional or shallow or feels like they were just put there to move the plot forward. There's even an antagonist in the early volumes that isn't there for very long, but they're still fleshed out in a way that feels real and believable. The main characters are afforded so much personality and character development throughout that feels realistic and natural to the story, and it's very satisfying to read. A lot of the series' humour comes from character interactions, so it helps that they're so well defined. Fullmetal Alchemist is hilarious at times, and a lot of the humour serves to lighten the mood after some of the more heavier moments in the story. If you like stories with political intrigue, grand military manoeuvring and a slow burn mystery combined with a character-driven main story with a lot of heart, humour and warmth, I don't think you can go wrong with Fullmetal Alchemist. It's a series that I can easily recommend to newcomers and veteran manga readers alike. If I were to level one criticism at the series and its story, it's that there's a lot of time spent with characters moving from one place to another, and sometimes it can feel like not padding as such, but just wasted time. And it can sometimes be difficult to keep up with who's where, and it led to a couple of confusing moments where I had to kind of reread certain parts to make sure I was keeping up with the story. That's a very minor criticism, and it crops up so little that it's hardly worth mentioning, but I thought that I would put it in there just as a little bit of a criticism of the story all the same. Now, in my opinion, one of the strongest assets of this series is the artwork. It's absolutely stunning and of a style completely unique to Hiromu Arakawa. I feel like no matter the series, I can pick out this mangaka's work just from the main characters. And it's the characters where this series absolutely shines. Each of the characters is so utterly unique that you can even pick them out in wide panel shots where there might be a lot going on. The artwork is used to great effect in telling the story of this series. The serious moments are beautifully drawn and well defined. But equally so, this series has a lot of fun with its humour and visual gags. Some of the funniest aspects of this series come from the visuals rather than the writing itself. Seeing Edward's ghost rising from his body as he's been pummeled over the head by someone that he's wronged or said something about, or seeing him explode with rage after being called short, they never fail to make me laugh. Now, the only area where I would say that the artwork stumbles ever so slightly is in some of the more frenetic action scenes. It's worth pointing out that, for the most part, the action is very well composed on the page and the panels are very easy to follow, but there are times with more movement heavy scenes and a lot of busy fight scenes where it can just be hard to follow what's going on, and it often required me to go back and reread a couple of panels. But it's very minor again, and for the most part the action is very easy to follow. Now, to close the video out, I just want to talk about the physical releases of Fullmetal Alchemist. It's been released in many different formats over the years, from the single volumes to the 3-in-1s and then on to the still ongoing Full Metal editions. I can't say that these are the most cost-effective way to read the series. That probably belongs to the 3-in-1s. But for me, the Full Metal editions represent the absolute gold standard in this kind of release. It's also worth mentioning that when I was looking online, I was having varying degrees of success finding the single volumes and the 3-in-1s being actually in stock in the UK. I don't know whether these are still in print or whether Viz is primarily focusing on getting the Full Metal editions out. The quality of materials used in the Full Metal editions are superb. The hardcovers are sturdy and the paper is unlike anything that I've seen in a manga release thus far. It's like a glossy, thicker magazine stock almost. The covers feature a beautiful illustration of one of the main characters in the series, and there are some great finishing touches to the volumes, like there's a tracing paper title page that underneath reveals a full body illustration of the title character. And in the back of the volumes you find concept art of the cover characters, which details how they were conceptualized and brought to the final design. It all feels like a very great little package. There's not a lot of that concept art in there, but it feels like a nice touch to see it there, almost like an insight into the mangaka's thought process and design process when designing different characters. It was a really nice little touch to see. And despite the quality of the materials and the extra flourishes, the Full Metal editions are still incredibly affordable. The cover price is just £15.99 in the UK, but I'm regularly able to find them for anywhere between £9 and £12. This to me represents exceptional value, and in my opinion it's the best way to own this series. I hope that this first impression was helpful, and however you decide to read the series, I hope that you enjoy it. If you're a fan of the Brotherhood anime, you probably won't find anything new here, but if you're totally new to the series, I can't recommend it enough. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, please remember to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps out and lets me know that you're enjoying what I'm doing with the channel and these videos. Let me know in the comments if you're collecting the Full Metal editions of Fullmetal Alchemist, or if you've got the series in some other format, and what you think of it so far. Who is your favourite character in Fullmetal Alchemist? Let me know down below. You can also find me on social media. The username should be somewhere on screen here, and I'll leave links down below in the description as well. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Northern Soul Reaper, and until next time, goodbye.